Good afternoon and welcome to another installment of the Western United Credit Union webinar series entitled Peace in the Midst of Uncertainty, Achieving Financial Stability in Light of COVID-19. This is an opportunity where we at WestSCU uses this time in global affairs to reach out to you through the digital means, of course. And we would want to get things started as with all of our programs, giving respect to our patriotism. So I would like to introduce Mrs. Hermina Bino Charles, who will deliver for us a rendition of the national anthem.
Side by side we stand, island of the Arabian Sea is our native land. We pledge our lives to thee. Every need and wish finally on place, and we guard the salvation. Every need and wish finally on place, and we guard the salvation.
I would now also like Mrs. Bino Charles for her to present us the credit union prayer.
If we are channel of your peace, where there is hatred, let me bring your love. Where there is injury upon the Lord, and give us thoughts of faith in you. Oh, sometimes the time may never see, so much to be and so much to do. To be understood as well as understand, to be loved as to love with all my soul. If we are shining on your peace, where grace is sailing life and where there is happiness in life, and where the sadness ever gone. Sometimes the time may never see, so much to be, so much to be understood as we understand, to be loved as we if we are channel of your peace, it isn't pardoning that we are pardoned. In giving to men that we receive, in knowing that we'll get eternal life.
Thank you so very much to Mrs. Bino Charles for that rendition of the Credit Union prayer. At this point in time, I would be delivering the invocation, and I would like to take this opportunity to ask that wherever you are listening in on this, that you take this moment to reflect deeply on all that has happened and all that we hope will happen in the future as we emerge out of this pandemic. I ask that whether you refer to the Creator as God, as Allah, as Jehovah, as Krishna, whatever it may be, that you take this time to deeply reflect. As we ask that today's proceedings, we ask that our Heavenly Father watch over and protect us, ensure that the message that we are delivering today resonates with our membership and those who are interested in coming on board as members of Western United Credit Union. We pray that Trinidad and Tobago is showered with blessings, with the protection of good faith and good fortune, that we may emerge out of this situation a better, stronger people with greater, more vast possibilities on the horizon. We ask that you look at our goings out and our coming in, that you guide, God, and protect us from all harm and danger, seen and unseen, and some death, and that you take this moment to use each and every one of us as vessels to deliver the good news to the people of this country and beyond, that there is in fact hope, and that once we all work together, we can in fact achieve greatness. We ask all of this and we pray in your holy name, whether it's Amen, Ameen, Inshallah. At this point in time, I would like to introduce our president of the Western United Credit Union, Mr. Mark Ferret, who has been a steward of this organization over the past year and change, and who has been very instrumental in bringing us to where we are at right now, even prior to being on the board of directors. I want to take this opportunity to open the floor to him to deliver the opening remarks for today's proceedings.
Thank you, Nikolai. Nikolai, can you hear me?
Yes, Mark, the floor is yours.
Oh, you hear me clearly? Okay.
Yes.
Nikolai, and good afternoon, fellow cooperators and special invited guests. Welcome once again to another, what we are anticipating, another dynamic webinar. So the COVID-19 pandemic came and caught us, at least most of us, with our pants down. Yes, most of us were totally unprepared financially to weather such a life-changing storm, one that seems to be never-ending in its adverse effects against humanity. And even as we speak, the employment rate has surpassed over 14 million just in the United States of America alone. And the United Nations International Labour Organization Work Agency warns that hundreds of millions of persons could be left without a job due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We were not ready because we failed to prioritize, and yes, most of us weren't ready because we keep making promises to ourselves that I am going to become more financially prudent. I am going to put a little kakada, as the old people would say, aside for a rainy day. Well, guess what? The rain came, and it fell very heavily, and it continues to fall. So, and I am so happy that to hear Nikolai use in his prayer the word hope, because there is always hope, even in the midst of the storm, and even as we remain prayerfully calm, and with that healing balm from Gilead, we can come out this situation. I mean, I know that right now we are dealing with the financial aspect, but we can come out of it financially better than how we were before. It will take some realistic introspection. It will take changing your mindset and becoming more self-aware of who you are, where your weaknesses are in terms of spending. It would also take you creating a spending plan and sticking to that spending plan. It would also mean that you need to have patience with yourself, determination, and you also need to have discipline. Discipline in how we spend. So the Bible says in Ecclesiastes 10:19 that a feast is made for laughter, and wine maketh merry, but money answereth all things. Let me say that again. But money answereth all things. And therefore, if we want to create that generational wealth that we can leave as a legacy or a heritage for our loved ones, if we want to live the kind of comfortable, nice, financially stable life that we so desire, it means that even in the midst of this COVID-19 pandemic, that we would find ways and means to start building that savings for a rainy day. So I hope that all of us are listening, because COVID has happened and we become very flustered and we are living in a time of great uncertainty. But I want all of us to listen and learn from the lessons that COVID-19 has presented to us as we weather this storm. So I would continue the dialogue back and forth when Terry is finished. So Nikolai, I hand it back over to you, and everybody get your pens, get your papers out, and let us start writing down once again all the things that we can be grateful for during this period of time, and all the things, the bad behaviors that we need to change for us to become more financially sound. Back to you, Nikolai.
Thank you very much, Mark. That's the president of the Western United Credit Union delivering the opening remarks. And as he said, the rain has come, and this really is a time to take heed. All that we have done in the past, saving and preparing for such moments, it's now time for us to activate. So thank you again for those opening remarks. At this point, we move very swiftly along our program. Next, we have our facilitator from Families in Action, no stranger because she delivered a wonderful, very interactive presentation last week, Mrs. Carice Ramkaran Braxton, once again from Families in Action, who will be facilitating this session. And I want to remind you guys that if you're listening attentively at that, please take notes. We will have at the end of this a question and answer segment, and we want to answer your questions. And this is the purpose of all of this, to edify, to educate, to empower. So this is your moment. Take full advantage of it and make sure to take your notes so that we can come right back and ask our questions. Carice, let me hand over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Nikolai. And thank you very much as well to the management and staff of WestQ Credit Union. It is indeed a pleasure for us as Families in Action to speak today on this topic, which we strategically decided to do after the national budget, because it allows us to examine what may have been delivered, as well to help us manage our finances, as well as to see where can I develop or where can I empower myself further. So at this point in time, I'm going to share my screen so we can have the presentation up. Yes. So are you guys seeing my screen coming up? Yes. So today we're talking about weathering the storm of financial anxiety. How could we as individuals understand where our financial position is, as well as be able to stand ashore. Okay, nice. Stand ashore that we are not putting ourselves in further financial jeopardy. Because since the start of COVID-19, we've recognized that we were faced with something that we probably had never prepared for. In Mr. Ferret's introduction, he spoke about some of us, we have delayed the process of developing a sound financial plan in which we would have deferred savings, we would have deferred keeping money for a rainy day. We would have heard about all the niceties and how to save, how to invest, how to prepare for a crisis. But yet still, COVID-19 may have caught us off guard. And then again, some of us may have prepared, but because of the duration in which COVID-19 has, this pandemic has curled itself into, we would have never guessed that from March straight down to this present time, and we may actually think that it's going to go further beyond 2020, that we have to manage a big change in our financial state. But we want to encourage you guys, first and foremost, to understand that it's not necessary for us to develop anxiety about our finances, but to create a plan and understand what works best for us. So even as we go through this presentation, take notes as well as prepare yourself to ask questions, because there may be some things that I may highlight that may not necessarily answer all your personal or direct concerns. So we can address them at the end of this presentation. So the first thing I want you guys to understand is, one, we're all in this together. And I reinforce this again, we're all in this together. Because sometimes, and a lot of the times, we may find ourselves thinking that we are in this alone, that I am facing this stress alone, I am facing this problem alone, no one understands. And one of the quickest thing we tend to do is, within our fight or flight reaction, we isolate ourselves from other individuals and we deal with our issues solely and dependently on our own. So one of the first points that we want to talk about is utilizing our support systems. And one of our support systems we could talk about first and foremost is our family. So whether you come from a home, a single parent home, you come from an extended family, a typical nuclear family, you can still take the opportunity to have a family meeting. And in this family meeting, you share the facts among the group, where you seek suggestions that can benefit the entire household. So when we say have a family meeting to talk about finances, some persons become hesitant and say, I don't talk money with my children. And in fact, you can't speak about money with your children, but we just manage how we communicate this information. If you have a 6-year-old child, you would not take this time to put the challenges, your financial challenges on them, or your financial burden on them, whereby you would say, mommy have no money to pay for rent this month, or I have no money to do anything, I don't know where the next dollar coming from. That might be a financial burden on a child who will not be ready to handle those responsibilities. But everyone has a say or can provide suggestions in how we could have a financially sound method that could work best for our household, that could work best for our family. So for instance, and I was given an example some time back, there is a family that I was working with, and they consist of a big extended family. All of the children are adults, if not married, but all of them are working. But the parents, because they're accustomed being the ones to pay all the utility bills, do all the major repairs in the home, buy all the grocery, it never occurred to them that the children can contribute towards the finances in their home. And with COVID-19 coming up, where finances had dwindled from how it was before, they had a meeting together and they decided that, you know what, the children now who are adults, who are working, can contribute towards paying utility bills, paying towards groceries, as well as doing any repairs that the house may need. And this is just an example how we could all pull together in terms of not just sharing responsibilities, but finding out how best it can work for us. Another thing in through this family meeting in which you can discuss is how could we minimize expenses. Minimize expenses could be, you know what, because I may be the person that normally cooks, but I'm working. It is difficult for me to cook every single day or every single morning to ensure that everyone has the meal. So we may find ourselves buying a lot of fast food, doing a lot of takeouts, doing a lot of delivery, requesting a lot of food deliveries. So with that, we could share responsibility, create a roster. Instead of one person have the duty and responsibility of preparing all the meals or ensuring that money is spent towards the meal, whether that person or everyone else contribute towards it. We could save money by saying, you know what, I will cook on Monday and Wednesday. John will cook on Tuesday and Friday. And we work it out like that. So it will not be a burden on one person, but at the same time, save money or cut costs from buying a lot of fast food. Because when we check our expenses for fast food, we'll be amazed of how much money we spend as opposed to how much food is still in our grocery and we're still spending money on fast food, which is convenient, yes, but we can save costs. Another thing in terms of with family meeting is looking at ways, other ways of minimizing costs is exploring in terms of some of the things that we may be doing that may be causing wastage. So monitoring your electricity. So you keep your lights off. You only use, if you have air conditioning in your home, you use the air condition when necessary. We live in a beautiful, breezy, windy, lovely island of Trinidad and Tobago. So it's not necessary that we need to have our AC on every day during the day, or we need to have it on throughout the night. So for instance, I know someone, they set their air condition unit on a timer. So by 2 a.m., it will automatically cut off. And by that time, the room is already cool and cozy. So there is no need to turn it back on until he wakes up. So this is a way you can look at cutting costs and minimizing expenses in terms of as a family. And having these meetings, you'll be amazed at the different suggestions that you can have. You'll be amazed of how each person can contribute ideas and even efforts and even finances to ensure that it benefits the entire household. So first, you're not in this by yourself. So you look at having a family meeting and discussing with your family members, how can we all benefit from each other's, not just each other's finances, but how to reach that goal towards that financial stability as a household. Then secondly, if you're currently living on your own, you can assess the resources that you have available to you. So whether it means through grants or support from loved ones. So if you're probably one of those, and we don't want to take this for granted, that all persons that are logged on here are working or have not faced retrenchment or have not faced pay cuts during this COVID-19 pandemic. We don't want to take that for granted. And resources may not have been how it was before. So if you're living on your own, the first thing is assess the resources that you already have. How are you managing the income that you currently receive? Whether it has decreased significantly or not, you still assess what you have coming in. And then the other aspect is looking at what is available to you. So we heard from the national budget, like persons who are in the creative sector, they're extending the grant application. But persons who may have lost income in the creative sector, where you're an artist, whether you're a performer, you're a dancer, whatever it may be, you can still have access to these grants available to you. There's also the COVID support, COVID relief grant that was available. So that was an opportunity where you could have seek that additional support, as well as explore the various options that that is possible for you. So those of you who have small children and it's just you're a single parent and you have kids who's under the age of 18, you could go to social welfare and see what options are available to you through public assistance if the father or the partner of your children are not contributing towards them financially. Or you could even seek support from loved ones, because we have persons that may be around that may be able to provide us support to us, or that assistance that we may need, and that could help us in terms of easing some form of burden. And the support may not necessarily be every time you call your aunt, you call your cousin, you call your mom and say, I could get $200 or $300, or I'm unable to pay my installment this month, how you could help me out, and every month is the same thing over again. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that loved ones could provide support in different ways. Yes, there will be those who may be able to help you financially or for their own goodwill, but then there are some of them who may be able to help with babysitting, because now we have remote working. So some persons may have more availability to assist in probably looking after your child while you go to work, or to make errands instead of you having to pay someone to come in, or a private caregiver to look at your child within that period of time. So you look at the support that you currently have. And when you assess the needs of your household, you understand that there's a difference between wants and a difference between needs. And now is a good time to get on the same page with persons on these things. Even as a household, understand that there's a lot of things that we want, and probably before we would have had the resources and would have had the necessity to get all our wants, cover all our needs. But now, where we're realizing that the economy is so uncertain, we have to assess the difference between what we really want and what we really need. And as we speak about what we want versus what we need, there are 3 steps in understanding how to reach this place of balance, or this place of stability. So the first thing we need to find ourselves doing is examining what are our needs and versus our wants. And this is simple. Because when we really examine ourselves, we recognize that there are a lot of things that we may find ourselves doing that may not be necessary. So ask yourself, do I really need to have an unlimited data plan on my phone? Do I want that so that I make sure that I'm up to date? Some people may say I need it because I have to check my work emails. My data is what helps is what I use to do my work. My data is what I use as a hotspot for my laptop because I don't have Wi-Fi. But then again, some of us have Wi-Fi at home, but yet still we may have unlimited data. And this could be a way in which we could examine needs versus wants. Is this something that I really need? Or is this something that I want for convenience? Another thing is examine how you can downsize at this point and work on controlling your comfort impulses. And the example I gave here is online shopping. So, we all may find ourselves browsing through Amazon and saying, you know what, this is nice, this is nice, this is nice. I'll add this to my cart. I will get this. Wow, this is on sale. We have this sale coming up. I can do these orders. But sometimes these are just comfort impulses that we do not necessarily need. And even to downscale even a little bit more, we look at what our recurring expenses are, as well as what do we find ourselves spending money on that we don't normally account for. Same thing I was talking about in terms of buying food, fast food. Examine, do I really need to spend all this money on fast food? Do I have to go to the grocery every month or every week? Or however you decide to make your grocery and buy all these snacks? Do I need to bulk buy everything when I go to PriceSmart? Should I examine the price difference in what I may get in Price Mart in bulk, as opposed to what I could just probably pick up instead of the 6 tins of tuna. I could just probably pick up 2 tins, because on a normal basis, I don't really eat all that tuna. So 2 tins, it would stay. I have no worry about it. So it's just examining what are my needs versus my wants. And when you do that, you assess those needs. And how do you assess those needs? Is by conducting a needs assessment, where you're able to have a better picture of your responsibilities, your financial goals, and where there may be some flexibility for saving. So when we speak about finances, it's not just about making sure my books balance. It's not just about making sure that my income, my expenditure does not exceed my income. That is important. It's very important, because we can't live above our means. But the other aspect is, what are my financial goals? What do I aspire for in the upcoming months or the upcoming years? Am I someone who wants to go and further my studies? So if I further my studies, as you could see, we're not sure in terms of, we've seen how GATE has changed, where before it was 100% free tuition for all persons and all citizens of Trinidad and Tobago to access university education, tertiary education. However, now it has changed, where you have to do a means test. So if you're someone who's working, there's a possibility that you would still have to pay towards your further studies. So what are my financial goals? Am I going to pursue a tertiary education? How am I going to get the finances to support this? My goals are to get married, and getting married is a very expensive thing. So how am I preparing for this? And my goal is to own a home, because currently I'm living with my parents, or I'm renting. Or my goals is to do certain repairs or certain refurbishment to my existing house. What are my financial goals? So it's not just about living paycheck to paycheck. It's about knowing where you're heading towards. Are you going to always be dependent on your salary? And then especially with COVID-19, where we've seen that life is so uncertain that we can't really have one source of income sustaining us throughout, that we would have to assess, what do I want, or what can I do to reach my financial goals? What other means of income can I get in order to meet that place? And this is where you would look at where you have flexibility for savings. So you have your present income coming in, whether it's from one stream of income or not, or multiple streams of income. And you see, okay, I'm meeting my bills, I'm meeting my expenses, I'm fulfilling my financial responsibilities. I am working towards meeting my financial goals, and as well as ensuring there is flexibility for savings, because we never know what could happen on a rainy day. For those of you who have children, you would know that having children can be an expensive thing, because things just come up. You can never take a chance and just live put dollar by dollar if you have kids, because something always comes up, whether it's doctor visits, whether it's additional school material, whether it's assignment. Something always happens. New clothes, new shoes. Children have a tendency of destroying shoes very quickly, or outgrowing clothes very quickly. So it always have that flexibility for savings and what it is to come. So for instance, saving towards your child, so that they would have access to funding, that they would have a better start to their life when they reach that age of accountability. And then the other aspect is to understand less me and more us, or more we. Understand that it is a collective effort, and it does not have to be shouldered on one individual. And it's important, because everyone has to pull the slack. And I may be going to talk or say something that some women may not agree to. But a lot of times in a household, we would find that both women are working, both husband and wife are working, yet still all the responsibility is placed on the man, because he's the provider, he's the head of the household. So, and we will see that the women, they will just have their money to go to work and come back. What they do It's their decision, their own choice. So you have ever heard this statement where people say, where women say, my money is my money and your money is my money? So it's something that happens, and it's something that we could assess where everyone could pool together, everyone could work together and understand it's a collective effort if you have financial goals as a family, if you want to grow and flourish as a family unit. This is where we work together. And I probably lost about half of you women here with that statement, but it's actually true. We all need to work collectively together in terms, especially during this pandemic. And the other thing is working on the priorities. So we would have did our assessment, we'd have understand the importance of facilitating our need and waiting on our wants. And the other thing is working on the priorities. So the thing is, I'm not saying that you want to live on your basic needs and you only spend money on what you need. You would know where you are financially. You would know what level of flexibility you may have as well. So there will be times that, yeah, you could say, you know what, I could buy extra cotton candy. Or this month is my wedding anniversary. So I already would have had money saved up to buy a nice gift for my husband or for my wife. So you will know your financial position. But once you're able to realize, but with that, regardless of where you are, it's important to have priorities. And we see it a lot where people would speak illly about certain groups of people where they have no food in their house, the state their home is presently in, but yet still they're the ones that wearing the latest sneakers, the best makeup, the best hair, have the best hairdo, nails always done, which is kind of stereotypical when we come and we say that these people lack priority. But there's a lot more to why persons respond to that. But regardless, it's important that we know what our priorities are. So once we assess our needs, examine which bills or responsibilities are priority right now. So some of us may say, well, I have a lot of things that are priorities. But you can say, well, all right, you know what? I have to pay this bill by the end of the month. And it is important that I put this money aside for this. I'm not saying that you're going to defer your bank payments or you're going to not pay your TNTAC bill because they would wait until 3 months before they cut you. But make sure that you see what's important right now. Is it really important for us to go into that business venture at this point in time to take that financial risk? So, you know, it had this whole big thing with this online susu. Do I really want to invest that money now into something that I'm not really sure about? Because I just hear you could get so much money in return. Am I willing to take that financial responsibility now at this point in time? Or am I really ready to go into any other investments at this point in time? Am I really able to pay a bill that I don't need to pay right now? Do I really need to take all that out setting courts right now on terms? So you ask yourself, examine which bills or responsibilities are priority right now, and things that you would have already have expenses for or you already have responsibility for, that you examine which is necessary to facilitate at this point in time. And then we need to focus on necessities. Like for instance, I give you an example, but when we go to PriceSmart, what do we find ourselves buying as opposed to what it is we could just get in the grocery? So as much as it's really nice to have a fully stocked up cupboard, and which is maybe important, is also important that we be aware of what are the basic items that we really need. So I know there are some persons, they will ensure that they have the basic amenities: rice, flour, sugar, salt, the basic stuff. And they will have a meal plan for 2 weeks. And in this meal plan, they will purchase the specific grocery items that they need to prepare these meals. And with that, it cuts costs. Instead of spending bulks of money at a point in time to buy everything, and then still may have to go back to the grocery because you didn't have enough of one particular thing that you needed to prepare a meal for. So it could be an option for you. If it is you're looking at saving or not spending too much at the same time, and you just need what the needs are, you could look at not necessarily going to the grocery with a full trolley of grocery and purchasing a full trolley of grocery. You could get what you need at that point in time and then continue as you go along. You can keep an eye on rules about rent and utility and mortgage payment. So this means that these are the things that we don't lapse with. So if you're a renter, you don't lapse with rent. And all your utility bills, those are not expenses that you would lapse on. Your mortgage payment, your car installment, those things are stuff that you do not lapse on. So you always prepare for those things in advance, that these are things that are non-negotiable. So you keep an eye on all these things, because when you realize that you are unable to meet those payments, our anxiety increases. We get a different type of stress. We get a different type of worry. We get a different kind of panic and a different kind of pain in our head and a pain in our back and a pain behind our neck. So it's important to keep an eye on those basic stuff, your installments. So you know that your recurring expenses every month is rent, light bill, water bill, loan, car loan, and courts installment, phone. So those are your recurring expenses. To ensure that you meet those things and prevent you from having the anxiety and the stress of knowing, oh my, I forgot, I don't have enough money in my account and the bank going to withdraw for their loan payment. How am I going to get this money? How am I going to meet that? I don't want the bank to come and seize my house or seize my car because I'm unable to pay that installment. So keep an eye out on those simple things, those simple rules of ensuring that you continue to pay those recurring expenses that are necessary. And with everything, just as COVID-19, we make adjustments. And I repeat, we make adjustments. Everything around us can be changing, and we're still the same. Same behavior, same pattern, same spending. We make adjustments accordingly. So one, research is the key. So I would have mentioned before, exploring different grants are available. So you look up at the government programs and grants that you and your dependents are eligible for. So coming out of the budget yesterday, they spoke about investments into agriculture, and there was an interview with the Minister of Agriculture prior to the start of the budget, and he was saying that one thing that they're going to embark on before the end of the year is providing land for young people to do agriculture. And with this land, they're able to even build a property, a house, a shelter on this land as well. So if you're somebody who, let's just say you're not working or you have additional free time, you like doing agricultural work or you have the skill for it, this is something that you could explore, because a lot of investment is being done or given in the agricultural sector. So it's something that you could explore further that could be beneficial to you. There are several grants that the government may do and have for farmers, especially young farmers. Even the minister was talking about the chicken industry. If this is something that you want to explore that make it benefit you, I know previously before they were subsidizing, once you are registered as a farmer, have your farmer's badge, you get tax exemption for equipment and tax exemption for agricultural vehicles. So these are things that you could explore what are available for you if this is something that you desire. As I said, those of you who may not be earning income or have very, very minimal income, have a family, there are stuff like the food grants, there are stuff like public assistance, there are stuff home repair grants through self-help, the Commission of Self-Help, where you may want your single parent, you have no income coming. You may not be a single parent. You're someone who come from a low income household and you're realizing that your electrical needs to change or your roof needs to fix and your house in a condition where it needs some repairs, the commission of self-help may be an opportunity for you to explore where you could get the MRRG grant, which is up to $15,000 to do house repairs. And these are some things that you could explore that may be available to you. Some other support that the government may have that may be beneficial is simple things like training and education. YTEP is doing enrollment. See how you could register and still get a stipend while studying. So don't slip up on these opportunities. Take advantage of a lot of free online courses that are taking place now. So research. Don't just use your phone to go on Facebook. Don't just use your phone to browse through Instagram and Snapchat. Use your phone to explore and research what are some of the things that are available to me, that are available for you. And with that, examine the current policy put in place to support your financial stability. So for instance, those who are working, what are your company's policies towards dealing with this pandemic? What are your company policies towards retirement or even health? So for instance, some companies may have health insurance. And with that is actually significantly cheaper if your company has a group health plan whereby you'll be able to get full coverage for you and your family at a lower cost as opposed to you getting health insurance as an individual. So explore these options that may be available to you. Explore the policies that the company has in place. Explore the policies that the government has in place that may support your financial stability. And number two, you use the resources to your advantage. So know that banks and other financial institutions are making certain allowances. So you use these facilities wisely. Contact your institution to talk about any relief program that you may be eligible for, as well as you can look at the possibility of restructuring loans or requesting waivers. So as I said, and the key word here is to use these facilities wisely. So you would have heard the Minister of Finance said that they have been in consultations with banks and other financial institutions to ensure that they have, just as they would have had a 3-month period where loans could have been, loan payment could have been deferred. They were in discussion with different banking institutions to ensure that they have additional provision or additional support for their clients, especially during this COVID-19 period or this pandemic period. So you could go into your bank agent, speak to your bank teller or your bank agent, and find out from them what support that might be available to you. You may be amazed that, especially in the month of October, banks have a tendency of having loan sales. And with these loan sales is at a lower interest rate. We've heard the government, the Minister of Finance also spoke about the change in commercial bank interest rate from 9% to 7.5%, and see if this could be beneficial to you in some form or the other, as well as just going in and find out what is available. But the thing is, just because something is available, it may not necessarily be the wisest decision for you at this point in time. It can mean that you may further put yourself in debt that may not be beneficial now. So examine where you are and take advantage of the resources that you actually have available to you. And the next thing is, thirdly, to save where possible. So know the ways in which your expenses are currently cut down. So for instance, if you were going to the office every day, that you are accustomed buying fast food, or even if you drive to work, you are accustomed spending money on gas. And because of COVID-19 even, you may find yourself having a lot more spending money on outdoor activities or family activities, or even our own vacations, where we would have spent money on going to parties on weekends and stuff like that, or eating out. See where you would have saved that money. And we would have heard that Carnival, we may not have Carnival in 2021. The same way in which you would have saved that money towards playing with that mass band or towards going to certain all-inclusive fests, save that money where it's possible, instead of saying, well, you know what, well, I could buy something else since I have this extra money. So where you would have seen that you would have spent additional money on certain things, you say to yourself, all right, if I was really doing that, if I really had to continue doing that, I'm going to keep this money and I'm going to save it and not use it. So save where possible. And one thing I always tell people is that I don't like disorder. I cannot function in a disorganized environment, because what it does, it increases your anxiety and it frustrates you even further. So it's important for us to stay organized. Staying organized actually reduces our anxiety, because when things are all over the place, when it's helter-skelter, where someone asking us a question, we're confused about, okay, when I paid TM Tech, I paid WASA this month. I wonder if I really pay WASA this month, or did I not pay my WASA bill? So you're not sure when your next payment is. You're not sure. You're still not sure exactly when your car insurance is going to be due. You're not sure when you're supposed to pay your house insurance, because it's an annual thing. And especially now with the implementation of property tax that is coming soon, these things are things that you need to remember and stay organized about. So staying organized equals reduce anxiety. So it can be overwhelming trying to keep up to date on the changing circumstances while managing a household. It really can be overwhelming, because now we have different roles. We have the role for those who have been working, and the responsibility of working may have just been, okay, I go to work and I come back, the kids are in school, they would have been fed by the after school daycare. So when I come home, it's just to relax, because my mother-in-law normally will cook dinner until when I come back home and everything is fine. But now, if we're working remotely, or we would have been laid off, or would have been at a reduced salary, and we find ourselves being home more often, now we have to function as an employee, we have to function as a parent, as well as a teacher, because we have virtual school happening as well. We find ourselves functioning as a wife, providing the same wifely or husband duties as a spouse. We find ourselves even operating as cleaner, cook, master baker, janitor, everything. We find we have multiple hats. And that can be overwhelming, just keeping up to the changing circumstances. So what it is we can do, I'm speaking more specifically on finances, we could use technology to our rescue. So you could check out your device app store and find apps that can actually work, that could help you. And these apps can help with keeping a budget or keeping track of your expenses when they're paid. And this is important, because I find myself getting in trouble with this, because I pay 3 different phone bills every month with the My Digital app. And each one of these different bills are due on different time. And sometimes I would think that I paid one and I think I didn't pay it, and then after that bill didn't pay. So keeping it track with all the expenses and when they're supposed to be paid is important. So as well as you could set reminders when the car insurance is due, reminders on when is the next payment for my tuition if some persons are studying. So set reminders on what different reoccurring expenses have, whether it's monthly or annually or quarterly. You set reminders that could help you ensure that you don't miss payments as it's supposed to be done. And it's important in light of all that is happening to manage our mental health. So we would have talked about finding peace, finding hope, and ways in which we could find that inner peace or be hopeful in managing our mental health. So your well-being at this time may be affected by worrying about money and the stress of job security, or the sudden disruption of your routine and the uncertainty of the future. And that is why it's important to practice good self-care. So we would have talked about different coping mechanisms last week. And one of the best ways you could find coping mechanisms and find in terms of utilizing the best coping mechanism is getting some me time. Ways in which you as an individual could be distressed. You as an individual could just explore your own thoughts, explore what I like to do and what keeps me calm. And that might be necessary at this point in time because our lives have changed so significantly with this pandemic. It's important for us to still take time to manage us. So look at ways in which you could practice different forms of self-care, whether it's exercising, stretching, looking at doing things that you love, exploring the hobbies that you once had. So do things that would benefit your mental health. Even if it's simply by listening to music. This may be your coping mechanism. Some person's coping mechanism may be playing Candy Crush or playing some game on your phone or something like that. So if these are things that help you de-stress, practice these things and experiment with a variety of coping skills if it is you not sure what works best for you just yet. And this is where you discover that. However, it's important to still be on the lookout for coping strategies that are actually bigger long-term problems. For example, alcohol use. So we do not encourage using things that are toxic towards our mental health or hazardous to our own personal health. So alcohol use may be something that may be helpful in your coping mechanism or your instant gratification, but it's not something that may be beneficial to you in the long run, because when we use stuff to buffer our problem or to hide our problems, when we come out of that state, we will find ourselves with the same problems, with the same issues. So experiment on positive coping skills or coping mechanisms that work for you. And it's important to set aside time for problem solving. So last session, we will talk about making time. And it's important because when it comes to problem solving, we often don't make that time or set aside that time in managing the situation. So firstly, optimum mental health. So we're not at our best levels mentally when we're worrying about the impending changes and how are we going to manage those changes. So if we're worrying, if we're stressing out, we're never at our best level. So cut the worrying and start planning. So you take time to devote this time to the problems that you're facing, as well as how you're feeling about those problems. So you may say, well, I have no time for that. I have too much stress. I have this to pay, I have that to pay. I have this to deal with. I have no time to sit down and devote time to think about my problems. But one of the things we think about what the problems are, we understand why we keep facing this problem, or why is this issue present? Why am I in the same financial situation every month and I'm stressed out about it? Why is it that I always have to be the one to deal with this? And when you understand why, you will know how to approach this problem. So it's having that time devoted to analyzing your situation, analyzing the what, analyzing the why, and analyzing how it could be fixed. It would be useful and it would be helpful for us even to reach that state of optimum mental health. And the other thing, once we recognize the what, why, and how, we take a note of it. So by writing down our current problems or anxiety and also listing the resources and ways in which we can address them, we might realize that we have more resources than we initially thought, or that we're handling things better than our mind had us believing. So once you're able to explore this, you realize that, wait now, I could actually deal with this. This is not as bad as it seems. Or even though it is bad, these are some of the things that I can do that can make a difference. Because again, we can't see that everything around us is changing and circumstances are altering, and we expect to do the same thing and expect the same results. It doesn't work like that. So we see what we can work around and what changes that could be made and could be set aside. And recognize that in light of all that is happening, that there are still some positive things happening too. Always look on the bright side. And it helps with anxiety because as difficult as it may be in times of crisis, we may have to try to focus on the good things as well. So whether we discuss them with family or we list them on our own, it's important to look at the positive in our lives because we have a lot of positive things going on with us. But we tend to deflect those things because we want to focus on the issue. And there's this song that I used to hear from small, never ever worry, never worry, never worry about a thing. So don't worry because there are people whose life worse off than where your life is. And gratitude is a great thing that can help us navigate through life. So always try to find the bright side. As much as things may be negative, explore what are the positive things coming out of these negative things. And some people may say there's never any negative, there's nothing positive about what I'm going through. And as much as you believe this, as much as you think this, if we really see it on a positive side, we recognize that this situation took place because it's building my character. The situation took place because it's strengthening my patience. The situation was taking place because I'm able to bond closer with my family. So as much as things may be negative, there are always a bright side to it. And then if you realize that you're practicing needs versus wants, you're doing all the necessary due diligence and you still feel anxiety, you still feel stressed out, you still feel worrisome, nothing wrong with seeking help when you need it. So help can take many different forms. So you may have your loved ones support the immediate need, or you may even want to speak to a trained professional. And when speaking with a trained professional, you will have an impartial, unbiased response towards your situation. And some of us may say, well, I have family members, I have people I could talk to, but I'm not comfortable sharing my inner secrets with these individuals because persons may see me in a certain light. And if I share with them where my thoughts are, where my feelings are, they may judge me wrongly. And nothing wrong with that. And that's why you have other people that you can reach out to. Where we speak about counselors, psychologists, someone who really would be impartial and still a professional in it. And as we speak about professional, as you would know, I represent Families in Action, and we do provide counseling services for individuals, and we do it both virtually on a virtual platform, as well as in-person counseling. And with this support, you're able to reach out to that professional that you need. So how could you reach out for that support if you need it? You could send us an email at info@familiesinaction.net, or you could check out our website on familiesinaction.net to get more information about who we are, what we do, more about the organization, how it could be beneficial. If you're interested in stuff with parenting, those things are available as well. If you're interested in things in the area of child, with youth, things with addiction, things with employee support, Families in Action, our website will cover all these different areas. So you can learn more about the organization and see, again, with the resources available to you, how this could be beneficial. Or even you could give us a call on 628-2333, where we have a 24/7 helpline. So if you may be experiencing any kind of difficulty, you could call this number and you would have a trained professional listener that would hear your concerns and deal with and support you through your challenges. So you have that support available if you need that support at this point in time, because you may feel that the anxiety is on and the anxiety is challenging and it's difficult. The pressures of life may be difficult for you to deal with. So even as I wrap up this presentation, I just want to conclude by reminding us that in light of all that is taking place, all the shift that is happening around us, there's still hope and there's still peace. That each one of us have a critical role in our future, in our well-being. And when we speak about finances, we have an active part to play in ensuring that we meet our financial responsibilities and achieve our financial goals, as well as have the flexibility of enjoying life. When we enjoy what we do, it doesn't become a task, it doesn't become a burden. And in terms of even when we deal with finances and what it is we're faced with, it is good for us to look at the resources we have available, the support systems that we have, and take advantage of these things so that it can be a benefit, not just for us, but for a generation to come. Think about multiple streams of income. Think about generational wealth. Think about things beyond just, I need to live today for tomorrow. See beyond. What are your financial expectations? How far do you want to go? What legacy do you want to leave for your children? Explore this option, and from there, seek further advice and further support or consultation. And how could I manage my finances? So I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to present. And at this point in time, I want to hand over to Nikolai, and we could do a question and answer segment.
Thank you so very much for that insightful presentation, Grace. And you really drilled down into a number of things that are weighing heavy on people's minds. And this is exactly what it is about here, discussing the top issues, the things that are affecting us on a daily basis, and really providing a safe space where we can try to understand what's taking place around us and our role and function in the midst of all of that. We're going to immediately open the floor for questions. I know some of you all who are looking what you're on, and so I will open the floor for those questions. You can post in the comment section. And I guess, right.
I'll send them the video.
Any video?
Huh?
Any video?
Yeah. While we wait for some questions, and Chris and I, we are waiting very patiently. There are so many things that Chris mentioned earlier
Yeah.
in the discussion that we all can identify with, and some of the things that I would have written previously so that we can have a discussion. And one of the things that in her early presentation that it spoke, it reminds me of the 50-30-20 rule in how to manage your finances. And that speaks so directly to your needs. She mentioned needs, wants, and saving and paying off debt. That is the 50-30-20 rule. And then I saw where she would have spoken about the family meetings. And I find that to be a very, very crucial part of financial planning and gaining that financial stability in the household, that you call your family meetings. As we would have mentioned last week, we spoke about what are the conversations that you are having in your household now. What are those conversations? What are being communicated as we try to minimize or really address our needs and prioritize, bring the children on board? What are the things that we are doing? Chris mentioned a lot about not spending so much money on fast food. And when we talk about building that financial stability, people may say, oh gosh, so I can't even treat myself. I can't go here and go there, but no, it's about prioritizing, it's about minimizing your spending and gathering the family together in terms of, okay, you're in the kitchen, instead of buying so much fast foods, maybe we can make a sweet bread, we can make a cake, we can do something. Yesterday I passed by a friend and she just finished making some nice brownies. Well, you know, I was able to get some of that tasty brownies. So, and these are things that we can do in minimizing the amount of monies that we spend, and as we minimize the spending and we are increasing our savings, that monies can be put into the credit union as building that spending or savings so that you can fall back on a rainy day. I'm not hearing anybody jumping in with questions and answers. Carice, you want to jump in there? We have situations right now. So the children aren't going to school. Dixie?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that allowance, Sumi, Mr. Barton,
Certainly.
that allowance that you would have been given to your children, you're not giving it to them because they're at home.
Right.
So that is monies that you can bring into the credit union. And for those of us who may not have an education builder account, you can invest that money there and earn an annual interest rate on your education builder account. And for those of us who, our children may not be part of the organization, that is now is the opportune time that the monies that they are saving, you can start to teach them responsible habits of joining the organization and starting to save and learning what it is to sacrifice, what it is to prioritize, and the allowance that you would have given to them, you can now direct that monies into the organization and let them start their own saving habits. I am seeing that Maxine King is on with us today, and Maxine, I am so happy that you could join us today. And Maxine is our wealth manager within the organization. So Maxine, I don't know if you want to throw in a little 2 cents. Maxine? So as we wait on Maxine maybe to unmute her mic and throw in her little 2 cents, because one of the things that WestQ is very passionate about as well, and I heard Carice mention it, is the creation of wealth, generational wealth, legacy. What is your heritage that you want to leave for your loved ones and your family? And leaving a legacy doesn't mean that you have to wait until you die. It's what you do each and every day of your life's journey to impact those around you. Any questions?
You know, just to jump into the discussion here, and this is from my personal experience. Since COVID-19 happened, I have an 18-year-old daughter, and we both sat down very much like what was recommended by Carice. And we said, you know, what can we do? I sat down with my daughter and said, what can we do to generate income? And she came up with having her own business. She came up with things like selling some old books, you know. So she came up with certain ideas as to how to generate income, and they were very, very simple ideas. You know, I told her, let us look around and see what we have. Very much like what Carice mentioned, and she started doing things to generate, I mean, not thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, but certainly a small amount of income that she would use and she would eventually save. And of course, I can't touch that money.
I am seeing like Maxine is ready to jump in.
Yes, Mark, forcefully so. I don't know if everyone is hearing me. Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to listen in on this program. I must say that I thoroughly enjoyed it, notwithstanding the fact that from time to time I had to move away to take a call or things like that.
Understand.
I did love the practicality of the approach that was used by Carice, is her name?
Yes.
Karis.
Right? I really found that it was not it was a very, well, something that you can relate to, very relevant, sorry, that's the word I'm looking for, very relevant, no highfalutin set of ideas, just ideas that could in fact be implemented, not just because it's COVID, but what we should be using as our life practice
Yes.
in our on the road to building wealth and creating wealth for our families.
Yes.
I really like the idea of the family discussions. You know, sometimes people feel that you have to wait until your children reach a certain age before you actually talk about finances, right, or budgeting and saving and things like that. And my thing is that introducing the family to a conversation that is family centric about things that matter to the entire family is a good thing, because Mark just touched about legacy, or that can also be part of the legacy, where we
Yeah.
move away from financial education at a later age to financial education at a much earlier age,
Yes.
where as you know, children get older, it is easier for them to understand and to also to introduce. Maybe about a few months ago, I went to do something along these lines for some children from a home, young girls and boys, who I have to tell you, at the start I bored the life out of them because they just could not relate to the idea of having to sit down and work out a budget. And these are teenagers I'm talking about here, by the way,
Yes.
who are in a better place to understand. But for them, that was not their domain. That was the domain for the adults, and not for them, because that was not something that they were ever introduced to, right? So I really liked Clarice's approach. There was something else that she said that touched a nerve for me, which had to do with generational wealth, and it related to when she said that what she was going to say some women may not agree with her. But I had both hands up because I fully agreed with her that one of the ways for us to build generational wealth and to make sure that the next generation is better than the previous one is
Yes.
in the manner in which couples, and well, let me be blunt, women especially, conceive of the idea that my money is mine, but your money is mine too. What that does is to stifle the ability, as far as I'm concerned, to really create wealth in a way that is beneficial, not just for both of you in the long run, but for the family as a whole. So I really felt that, you know, that was instructive. And I want to commend Carice for being brave enough to say it. even though she felt it would be controversial. All right. And I find her talking too much now. So
Thank you,
I just
Maxine.
wanted to say those things.
Thank you so very much.
You're very welcome.
Really appreciate those comments. Well, it seems as though we have no other questions.
Sure.
As Carice and I, we are here, and I really appreciate this session today. And well, I don't want to steal Nikolai's job, but so I wouldn't mention that because, you know, there will be a lot more webinars coming up in the future. I just want to encourage people to truly think about where they are financially. And if you want to change the habit or the culture, then you have to change the way in which we speak. So we have to change the mindset and the thought patterns. So, I mean, there's a lot more that we can say, but I will hand it back over to Nikolai. And then we would, after Dixie, I just will need to say something before we log off. Before Hermina take us out. Back to you, Nikolai.
Thank you very much, Mark, and also thank you very much, Therese, on that presentation from Families in Action. And of course, as Mark was alluding, this is the continuation of a webinar series from Western United Credit Union, where we are actually reaching out to the membership and the wider community to ensure that persons understand that we at Western United Credit Union are here to serve your needs. We want to get you through this difficult time. It's unprecedented, uncharted waters for us even at Western United Credit Union. But of course, this is where ingenuity comes about and creativity and moving with the times, so to say. So we are so very pleased to have that presentation from Teresa and facilitating, of course, that dialogue just now on behalf of Mark there and other members. So at this point, we are going over to Dixie-Ann D'Souza, who is the secretary, Madam Secretary, as you know her, who will deliver the closing remarks for today's webinar.
Great. Thanks very much, Nikolai, for that introduction. So now this is my, I have the privilege of doing the closing remarks today. And I must say good afternoon to the president of the Western United Credit Union, the manager of the Western United Credit Union, Mrs. Keris Ramkaran Braxton, representative of the Families in Action Employees Assistance Program, Ms. Hermina Bino Charles, our songstress, the voice, and fellow cooperators and specially invited guests, welcome again to our second official webinar. And of course, I would like to thank Mrs. Keris Ramkaran Braxton for that very realistic, sobering, insightful presentation on how to weather the storm of financial anxiety. And of course, every time I do a webinar, I like to go over some of the highlights of that webinar for not just everyone who's listening, for all listeners, but for my personal development. So I want to just highlight some of the things that stuck with me. And I like the idea that we are all in this together, you know, and very often when we listen to other persons talk about what they are experiencing with COVID-19, it is very, very distressing. And it could be very depressing as well, you know. And sometimes we have to, you know, we have to really comfort one another and tell us, you know, you're experiencing that, but look at what my situation is. And in some cases, my situation might be worse than yours. So, you know, we all experiencing it in some way or the other. And I like that idea that we are all in this together. And that alone could be very comforting. And the idea of assessing our needs and our wants. So it means that our lifestyle has to change. So if we were more or less liking a lot of things that we didn't need, we have to very much cut it out. And I think that is something that some people have to understand, especially during this time. Do I need that extra dress? Do I need makeup? Do I need that car accessory? Right? Right. Do I need to go by the hairdresser so often as our president, or by the nail tech? Exactly. Do we need to really do that? Well, I don't have any nails, Keris, so I don't think I have a problem with that. Nevertheless, it is very, you know, and it's simple, simple questions, and I find that it's very, very realistic, and I like that.
Oh, do I need to be smoking so many cigarettes?
Yeah, do I need to be smoking so many
beers?
Exactly, drinking so many beers, right? That is some other questions. Do I need to go to the bar? Right? Anyway, Keris mentioned too, working on priorities. What is really important during this time? And of course, being brave enough to make the adjustments. Some people still want to be stuck in their ways, even during this time. And I mean, I've heard those sentiments, you know, being echoed. And of course, being organized. I found that very important because I myself had to change my schedule, right? And of course, managing our mental health, because as you know, with COVID-19, there's a lot of people now walking around very unhappy, mentally ill, and very much suicidal in their thoughts. Some persons who I've spoken to, they are quite, you know, some of them are like on the brink. A little bit again, a little push again, and it seems as though they will go off the edge. So it is important to manage your mental health at this time. And then also, you mentioned, Keris, problem solving, right? We have to find solutions in spite of what is happening around us. And I think that was critical. And always stay positive. I know the president mentioned in his opening remarks the idea of hope, still having hope in the midst of this pandemic, still having hope in spite of what the reality is. So there is a need to still have hope and be positive. In fact, it is better to live in hope than despair. Because when you go down that despair path, many times it does not lead to a very positive impact. It doesn't have a very positive impact, and it leads to very often negative consequences. So we definitely need to be positive in a time like this. And of course, you spoke about seeking professional help. Some people have to also know that they need professional help. And that is one thing that that reality, coming to that reality that you know something, talking to other people and helping. Let me see if I need to go now by a psychologist, or let me see if I need to go by a psychiatrist, or somebody to help me with the finances, or, you know, something like that. So thank God we have you, Keris, in your Family in Action, so that we can go to you. And of course, always understand that there is, that everyone has a particular role and has a destiny. I strongly believe that everybody was put on, each person was put on this earth with a particular destiny and a particular role to fulfill. And it is important to, perhaps at this time, think about that, do some introspection and look and really, you know, look up from whence cometh my help. Look up and see what is really, and ask certain critical questions, you know, get serious. What is my role? What should I be doing? What should I be doing in this life to fulfill my destiny? And I strongly believe that if you are really fulfilling your destiny, it will make you a happier person, right? So I want to thank you very much, Keris, for that very, again, realistic, insightful presentation. I would also like to thank Miss Hermina Bino Charles, our songstress. I look forward to the last song. I would also like to thank you, participants, for accepting the invitation and for your interest, right? I know we would have liked more, but believe you me, and I think Mark hinted the fact that there will be future events. So we want to see some more attendees, please.
Yes.
Right?
Spread the word.
Spread the word about these important webinars and how important it is to hear it, right? I also want to thank Mr. Barton, the manager of the Western United Credit Union, and his team, right, for the timely efforts and planning in making this event a very successful one. We are fortunate to have a team of very motivated and dedicated colleagues of WestQ who are passionate and very results oriented. So for that, Mr. Barton, I thank you. I would also like to thank Mr. Mark A. Farrett, our dear president of the Western United Credit Union, for his vision for the membership of WestQ. To have this webinar on topics such as these geared towards supporting the membership, preparing us, and generally developing and improving the lives of the membership body. So believe you me, Mr. Mark A. Ferret does have the membership at heart. So know that whatever decisions that he makes, whatever he does, it is for you, the membership, and for the benefit of you. I can guarantee you that.
Amen.
So I really hope that you enjoyed the first webinar, if you attended. And again, I was certainly not disappointed by the second. And believe you me, if you did not attend the first, you really missed out. Eh? You really did. Nevertheless, I thank you again. And I want to end by saying, stay home, please follow the instructions for the COVID-19 pandemic. Protect yourself, stay safe, and in so doing, you will save lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dixie-Ann, for the closing remarks. Before we head over to Mrs. Minor Charles, I know that Mark had indicated that he wanted to leave us with some words, so I hand the floor over to you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nikolai. I want to personally thank our IT guy, Nigel Thomas, who really works behind the scene to put everything together. And I mean, when I approached him, he said, yes, everything with Nigel, he makes it seem so easy. Nigel, thank you so much. I also want to thank Nikolai as well for accepting to be the moderator for our webinars. And thank you for a job well done. So I just want to directly speak to the hearts and minds of our membership and our wider community. And Carice mentioned gratitude. And those who speak with me would always know that that is a word that I always use as well, humility and gratitude. So even though we are in the midst of this storm, there are a lot of things that we can be grateful for. So as we start our WestQ webinar journal, let us write things that we are grateful for, that we have to be thankful for. We are thankful for today that God has granted us the gift of life, that we can do better, that we can be our brother's keeper. So before Nikolai hand over to the voice, I would like to leave you with these words taken from Philippians 4, verses 11 to 12. And Paul writing said, I have learned how to be content. And what that means, it means to be satisfied to the point where I am not disturbed or disquieted in whatever state I am. I know how to be abased and live humbly in strained or impoverished circumstances. And I also know how to enjoy plenty and to live in abundance. People, WestQ members, Trinidad and Tobago, this is a time to be prudent or to be financially prudent. This is a time to learn how to be contented. So let us adhere to God's word and truly live in a situation of contentment and gratitude. And by doing that, we will truly attain financial stability. Back to you, Nikolai.
Thank you very much, Mark, for those words. And now I would hand over for the final item on today's program for our webinar, the beautiful voice of Mrs. Hermina Bino Charles. And she will be performing for us Ave Maria, something that we could all look forward to.
Yes.
Thank you so very much for mentioning of Ave Maria. And I can safely say that we are ending today's webinar on a high note. both figuratively and literally. Thank you so very much again for that. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Nikolai Edwards, Director here at Western United Credit Union, and it has been my absolute pleasure to be your moderator for today's webinar. Remember, this is the WestQ's regular webinar series where our theme is Peace in the Midst of Uncertainty, achieving financial stability in light of COVID-19. So we're going to encourage you to stay tuned to our pages. We want you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, where you can keep abreast of all of the goings on here at Western United Credit Union. We want you to also reach out to us, find out how you can become a member of this great credit union. Let's work with you. Let's build together a strong financial institution where we are a cooperative. We depend on membership involvement for us to thrive and to be able to achieve the things that we want to. So thank you on behalf of the entire team here at Western United Credit Union. It has been our absolute pleasure to host you all today, and we look forward to another impactful, powerful, insightful webinar here brought to you by Western United Credit Union. Remember, stay safe and do all that you can, all within your power, to ensure that those around you, your loved ones, and everyone else also is safe as we emerge out of this pandemic. Thank you very much.